Imagine giving away your product for free while your competitors charge hundreds of dollars. Then, imagine going to war with every single one of them. Lawsuits, death threats, the Chinese government getting involved. This man fought Tencent, a company with 600 million users, and forced them to back down. He was banned, hated, and called a destroyer. Today, he's worth billions. And the craziest part? He started as a failed physics student who wasn't even allowed into computer science. This is the insane story of how Zhou Hongyi broke every rule, made everyone his enemy, and built one of the most powerful tech empires in China. This is the story of how a physics student who couldn't get into computer science built China's most controversial cybersecurity company. A man who didn't just compete in the market, he weaponized it, who turned free antivirus software into a fortune, and whose aggressive tactics made him enemies with nearly everyone, but made him a billionaire. This is Zhou Hongyi and the rise of 360 security. 1998, Zhou Hongyi was not supposed to be here. While studying for his master's degree in systems engineering, he had tried and failed to get into the computer science department. But failure has a way of fueling certain people, and Zhou was one of them. He'd already tasted entrepreneurship once, founding a company called Fadian while still in graduate school. It failed, but he learned something critical from that failure. The internet was going to change everything, and whoever understood it first would win. So he did what most wouldn't. He taught himself to code, day and night. While his peers followed traditional paths, Zhou was building something in the shadows, a search engine plugin called 3721. Now here's where it gets interesting. 3721 wasn't just a search tool, it was a Chinese keyword search system that let users type Chinese characters directly into their browser to reach websites. Sounds simple now, but in late 1990s China, when the internet was still young and most websites used English URLs, this was revolutionary. But Zhou didn't just want users, he wanted dominance. 3721 became one of China's first examples of aggressive software distribution. The plugin would install itself deeply into users' systems, making it incredibly difficult to uninstall. Users started calling it malware and rogue software. Zhou didn't care. His user base exploded. Within a few years, 3721 was on over 100 million computers. And then came the pivot that would define his career. In 2003, Yahoo China came knocking. They offered Zhou $120 million for 3721. He sold. Just like that, the failed physics student who couldn't get into computer science had his first 9-figure exit. He became president of Yahoo China. Most people would have stopped there, declared victory, enjoyed the money. Zhou lasted exactly 2 years before the corporate bureaucracy suffocated him. He quit, walking away from Secure. 2005, Zhou founded Qihoo 360. The name? 360 represented comprehensive all-around protection. But the early days weren't about security. Qihoo started as a community search platform, a Q&A site trying to compete with Baidu. It went nowhere. Another failure. But Zhou noticed something in the user data. People weren't just asking random questions. They were desperately seeking help with computer viruses, malware, and online security threats. China's internet was exploding, but it was also becoming a minefield. Millions of new users had no idea how to protect themselves. And here's the problem. Every antivirus solution in China cost money. Kaspersky, Norton, McAfee, they all charged annual subscriptions. For a country where pirated software was the norm and people were still getting used to paying for internet access, paid antivirus was a non-starter for most users. Zhou saw the gap, and he saw something even bigger. 2006, Zhou made a decision that would make him a billionaire And a target. 360 Security Guard, launched as completely free antivirus and security software. Zero cost, forever. The industry thought he was insane. How do you make money giving away your product? But Zhou understood something they didn't. He wasn't selling antivirus software. He was buying attention. And in the internet age, attention is currency. The strategy was brilliant. Free antivirus got 360 Security Guard onto millions of computers. Once installed, it became a platform. The software would scan for issues, optimize PC performance, and here's the key: 360 controlled the gateway. They could recommend other software, control browser settings, suggest downloads, and eventually push their own browser. Users flooded in. Within a year, 360 had tens of millions of users. Within 3 years, over 300 million. But Zhou didn't just want users. He wanted monopoly. 360 didn't just compete with antivirus companies. It declared them obsolete. Zhou's software would actively detect competitors' antivirus programs and label them as unnecessary or even potentially harmful. Imagine installing Norton, only to have 360 tell you Norton itself was the problem. This wasn't competition. This was digital warfare. Rival companies sued Symantec, Kaspersky, Rising Antivirus. They all took shots at 360. Zhou's response? He fought back harder. In interviews, he called them dinosaurs, living off subscriptions while offering inferior protection. He was brash, unapologetic, and the media loved him for it. But the real war was yet to come. 2010, Zhou set his sights on the biggest target in Chinese tech, Tencent. Tencent's QQ Messenger was used by virtually everyone in China. It was essential infrastructure, but Zhou saw it as bloated, insecure, and ripe for disruption. 360 released a privacy tool called 360 Privacy Protector that scanned software on users' computers, including QQ. The report? QQ was secretly scanning users' private files. 10. Then, in September 2010, Zhou released another tool, QQ Doctor. Positioned as a security enhancement for QQ users, it was really a Trojan horse. It optimized QQ while simultaneously pushing users toward 360's ecosystem. Tencent had enough. They released their own security software to compete directly with 360. And then they made a move that shocked China. Tencent issued an ultimatum to users. Uninstall 360 or you can't use QQ. Choose one. This was unprecedented. QQ had over 600 million active users. It was how people communicated, worked, lived online. Forcing them to choose between QQ and 360? It was digital hostage-taking. The public backlash was immediate. Users accused Tencent of bullying. Zhou, suddenly the underdog, played it perfectly. He positioned 360 as the victim, fighting for users' freedom against a corporate giant. The Chinese government stepped in, forcing both companies to cease hostilities. Zhou had done the impossible. He'd gone to war with Tencent and survived. But wars are expensive, and Zhou knew 360 couldn't just be a free security company forever. The real genius was in the pivot. 360 Safe Browser launched in 2008, but post-Tencent war, it exploded. With hundreds of millions of users already trusting 360 for security, adopting their browser was an easy sell. The browser became 360's cash machine. How? Search revenue. Every search made through 360 Safe Browser generated money from search partners, e-commerce recommendations, software distribution deals, online advertising. The browser was the monetization engine that the free security software built. and then came mobile. As smartphones took over China, 360 moved fast. 360 Mobile Safe became one of the most downloaded security apps in China, protecting users from SMS scams, malicious apps, and data theft. Again, completely free. Again, monetized through the platform. 2011. Qihoo 360 went public on the NYSE. The IPO raised $175 million, valuing the company at nearly $4 billion. Regulatory investigations followed him. Rivals accused 360 of monopolistic practices, privacy violations, and unfair competition. Some of it was jealousy. Some of it was justified. Zhou's software, while free and effective, was also infamous for being difficult to fully remove and for aggressive bundling practices. Ironically, the same tactics his old company 3721 had used. The student who learned from failure had also learned from his past sins. Yet, through it all, Zhou never softened. In interviews, he remained defiant, argumentative, and convinced he was right. He believed Chinese users needed free protection, and if making enemies was the cost, so be it. Today, Zhou Hongyi remains chairman of 360 Security, though the company has faced new challenges. Increased regulation, competition from smartphone manufacturers building in security features, and the maturation of the Chinese internet have all pressured 360's dominance. But the impact is undeniable. 360 Security protects over 500 million users. Zhou's pioneering of free security software forced the entire industry to adapt or die. Paid antivirus is essentially extinct in China now, and Zhou's fingerprints are all over that transformation. He proved that in the internet age, free isn't just a price point, it's a strategy. That market share matters more than immediate profit. That if you control the gateway, you control everything that flows through it. Zhou Hongyi's story isn't a clean hero's journey. He's not a beloved founder. He's not universally admired. But he won. He turned failure into learning. He turned aggression into advantage. He turned free software into billions. He understood earlier than most that the internet wasn't just about technology. It was about psychology, positioning, and platform control. His lesson is uncomfortable, but true. Sometimes disruption requires being willing to fight dirty, to make enemies, to be hated. Zhou didn't become a billionaire by playing nice. He became one by being willing to do what others wouldn't. The failed physics student who couldn't get into computer science didn't just enter the tech world, he conquered it. And in doing so, Zhou Hongyi proved that sometimes the best defense isn't playing by the rules, it's rewriting them entirely. From a failed entrepreneur to China's most controversial tech billionaire, Zhou Hongyi built 360 Security by giving away what everyone else sold. He fought wars with industry giants, made enemies with nearly every major player, and emerged victorious with a $10 billion empire. His aggressive tactics might have made him the most hated man in Chinese tech, but they also made him one of the richest. Zhou's story proves that disruption doesn't come from playing it safe. It comes from being willing to fight battles others won't. So what do you think? Was Zhou Hongyi a visionary who democratized cybersecurity for millions? Or just a ruthless businessman who played dirty to win? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story of how a rejected physics student turned free software into a billion-dollar empire blew your mind, smash that like button and subscribe, because we're diving into more insane business stories like this every week.